If you're going through a breakup, I want you to know that your ex can't just forget you. People going through breakups ask me a lot, what if my ex forgets me? And the question is, can your ex forget you? And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. The first point is your concern that they will actually forget you in terms of not having a memory of you anymore, as though they can't recall your name or the experiences you two had together. If that's your concern, then I can just put that to rest, simply because if you think about it, you still remember people who you were in a relationship with in the past. And you may say, well, yes, but I didn't get back together with them, or I'm not interested in getting back together with them. And that is the main issue here. Is it's not about remembering. It's about how the memory impacts them and several other factors that I'm going to get into. But just remember, if you're concerned that they will actually forget you, that's not going to happen with someone with a healthy and functioning brain. So just keep that in mind. You don't need to remind them of your presence. They know. It's not something that they can forget. And I'm going to get into some more important things about this. But the first thing I want you to know is that they are not simply going to forget your existence. You can stop worrying about that one. Number two, your ex often fights themselves. And I can't speak to every situation, but in most situations, the person who does the dumping, the person who initiates the breakup, will have lots of conversations after in their own mind where they are confused, they're conflicted, they're wondering if they made the right decision. And when they go into the breakup, it is exceptionally rare that someone would be 100% certain that that's what they want to do. It happens if there's physical abuse or real mental and emotional abuse, not just arguments, but actual narcissistic abuse and things like that that really are legitimate and not just, well, we argue some. That's not controlling. That's not toxic. That's just arguing some. I'm talking about in real cases of abuse. Then yes, the person can be 100% sure that they want the breakup. But most of the time, it's like 60 or 70%, and it lasts long enough that they want to do something about it. So that's why a lot of times it takes a while. And sometimes you notice things like they're not texting back as quickly, or it's too easy for them to turn you down for going out or something like that, and they don't really offer an alternative time. Or they might even just mention it and say, I just don't know how I feel, or I feel differently. That's usually when they've had it at like 60 or 70% for a while, as far as them thinking that they want to break up, but they fight it some. And so they get to the breakup and they're not 100% sure, but they know it's been at a 60 or 70% for a while and long enough to make them think, I need to do this because it feels like my future would be better without this person. And then they do it and they go into the relief stage, which I talk about in my video, stages your ex goes through during no contact. I'll link to that in the description below. But basically, in the relief stage, usually they're just relieved they got the breakup over with. It's in the stages after that that they actually start to think about that 30 or 40 or 50% that now maybe they do feel like it was 50-50, but at first it was 60 or 70% they were sure. And now the doubts start to weigh more if you're not contacting them, if you're not pursuing, if you're giving them the breakup and they're not hearing from you, because they realize that this could be permanent, that they could make a mistake in doing this. If they don't play it right, that they could lose you because you're not pursuing and chasing. So that basically means the option of simply having you for them to snap their fingers and say, okay, I'm ready to get back together, that's gone. And that's actually what they assumed at the breakup, because that's how it was. If they had told you, I think I want to break up, and then you talked to them and you got them to a place where they finally said, okay, I'll stay with you. They know that if they had done that you would have taken them back. And so that belief goes with them going forward, but it begins to shrink as you are not doing the things that a person would do if they wanted to get back together still, and if they were just distraught over the breakup. And so they start to have a conversation with themselves now that they realize that they actually might not be able to get you back. And that's when it becomes more important, because the actual process of not speaking and doing the things that people who are broken up do, which is they don't talk and they're not in each other's lives, those things actually remind them of you simply because it's a different habit, and because they probably are used to texting you good morning or texting you good night or hearing from you. And so even your habits, your habits changing are going to impact them. And so they can sit there now that you're not pushing them and they're not having to defend the breakup. They can actually ask themselves, was this the right decision? What's going to happen going forward? And that doubt actually can grow a lot stronger, because when something is about to be taken from us, we reevaluate. We remember the important things. We stop taking it for granted, which is what happened if they broke up with you. If someone breaks up with you, they have taken you for granted in extreme degrees. And usually we start appreciating something that we took for granted when it seems like it would be difficult to actually get it back. And so that's one of the reasons I tell people, back away. Give them the breakup, let them experience it, because that's when they can have that conversation. And that's when they can actually fight within their own mind when they're not sure. That's what gives you the best chance. And so the longer you can stay away, that's why I tell people, when you hear about this 30-day no contact thing, that's not enough. Usually it's more like 3 months. And I know that's not as fun to hear as 30 days of no contact, but it's definitely more realistic. And it can get your ex to a place where the pressure that they feel from worrying that they've made the right decision is going to change some of how they view you and how they value you. Before I get to number 3, get more information on my emergency breakup kit. I'm going to link to it in the description below, but you can go to myexbackcoach.com/EBK as an emergency breakup kit. It also allows you access to my support community, where you can ask questions of me and coaches on my staff, and you can start a dialogue with us about your situation. So that's the emergency breakup kit at myexbackcoach.com/EBK. And you can also book a coaching call with me at that website. What people typically ask when they've been broken up with is, why haven't they contacted me if they haven't forgotten me? And that's the third point here that I'm going to talk about. Basically, it's not that they have forgotten you and that's why they're not contacting you. They remember, and they're probably struggling. Just like you struggle with the silence, with the days passing, the nights passing, and maybe a special song comes on the radio or some kind of memory about something that you two did together. It has mostly to do with how your memory impacts them. And that's another reason that I tell you, you have got to stay away to raise your perceived value. And I know that that's not a fun conversation, because it sounds like we're talking about a car or a house or something rather than a human being, but that's how people see it. And unfortunately, sometimes they have to realize that you could be lost before they appreciate you again like they should. But if you're worried, well, they're not contacting me, they must have forgotten me, it's very possible that they're having a lot of difficulty with this. I do get to speak to people who break up with someone and they want to know what they need to do. And usually they're very receptive when I say, all you have to do is reach out and start talking to them and even just apologizing. And usually it's going to work pretty smoothly. And a lot of times they will tell me that they wrestle with contacting the person they broke up with, and that a lot of times they're very close and that they probably would have in the next week or two, but they wanted to talk to me first. So people like that do contact me. And that's a lot of times what's going on, is that they are struggling with it. And the longer you can stay away, the more you can basically just disappear, the better, because that's where they can see need for concern. If you're still interacting with them, you're telling their friends about how much you're struggling, they're going to know that you want them back. And it's just like when they broke up with you. They could say, maybe I'm wrong. You still want to stay together? And you'll just say yes, and it'll be easy. When they start thinking it might not be easy, even if they don't want it in that moment, they realize this could be something I lose. It was within their control because they wanted the breakup. You were the one who lost. But now that you are just letting the breakup be, and you're not fighting and you're not pushing and pursuing and chasing and begging and pleading, now that you're not doing any of that, they can actually think that maybe that's not the case. And it changes the way they think about the breakup and the relationship and you. So they're not forgetting you. They're probably struggling to some degree, unless there's someone else. And of course, I can't speak to every single situation, but I'm saying, generally speaking, you are not the only one who's having trouble with this. And the more that you can disappear, the more trouble your ex will have, which means they're more likely to do something about it instead of just sitting there worrying and hurting. Number 4, bonds are powerful and lasting. The romantic bond that people have in a relationship, where they're physically intimate, they're emotionally intimate, those things don't just fall off the cliff. They stay there. And I've actually had lots of conversations with psychologists and behavioral scientists, and we talk about how interesting it is that when there has been an intense, serious, committed relationship, like most likely you were in, that even years later, we're talking decades later, that there's still that connection. And people still talk about it, that if they were to see that person, that feelings would come flooding back. That's something they say a lot. It's actually simple to pick up where you left off in many cases. Now, if that happens, if they do reach out to you and want to get back together, that's one of the reasons I tell you to make sure things stay slow. Tell them that you're open to it, but you want to take it one day at a time and that you're not sure, because it will be easy to just connect like you did. But the problem is it's anticlimactic, and usually it starts to fade some. They need to feel like they have to do some work to earn you back, because if you were valuable and you were attractive, then that's what would need to happen. And you don't want them beginning to feel like they're not as attracted to you because you're not as valuable in their mind, because they didn't have to work to earn you back. And again, I know it sounds like games. I'm just telling you kind of how it works. And you should be that way. You should be reserved when someone has walked away from you, when someone has just ripped apart your relationship and tossed it aside. You should be reserved, cautious, unsure of that person. And that's the most attractive thing you can do. But they have not forgotten you emotionally and romantically, and as far as love goes. There is still a bond with you. It's just how it impacts them, how they see their future. It's about attraction, or if they get to a place where they think the relationship wasn't going anywhere, like if you have been dating for 5 years and they're wanting to get married and there's no progress toward that, and they just kind of feel like, well, maybe this is where the relationship ends. Maybe this is its peak, because ideally, you would take steps to increase the bond and increase the connection. And that would oftentimes be engagement, marriage, kids, and a life together like that. That's usually the natural progress. And that's one of the things that can keep a relationship going. But if it feels stagnant, certain people feel this more than others, but that's when they can start to lose attraction. So just keep in mind that the bond can still last, and usually almost always does. But it's very important about how you impact them, and staying away is how you can do that at this point if they've broken up with you. Number 5, you're part of their story. And so it's not like they can just go on in life and not remember you, not remember things that happened, things that you did together, places you went together, words that were said, moments that were shared. That's not something that we forget, just like you remember that. Just like you probably remember a lot of those things with people that you've been in relationships with in the past. If this is your first love, you don't have that to reference. And I'm sorry you're going through this, but just know that people still remember the person that they dated years ago. If it was a serious exclusive relationship and there was a lot of connection, people remember that, and your ex will remember you. They won't forget you. It's not about remembering or forgetting. It's about the way that you impact them, the thought of you. How does it affect them? That's what we need to know. And that's why you want to stay away, because you want to impact them. If you're continuing to contact them, first of all, it's not any different, because that's what you two were doing. But it also makes them feel like what they felt at the breakup is still the case, that they could just say, hey, you want to get back together? And you'd say yes. So there's no pressure on them at all. There's no anxiety or worry that they could lose you until they don't hear from you for long enough that they get to a point where they aren't sure that you ever will reach out again. And they don't know if you're going to chase, or maybe even if you're still interested, or if you've moved on with someone else. Interestingly enough, it's a lot of the thoughts that you have. Have they found someone else? Have they moved on? That phrase that no one can really explain. But you were part of their story. It's certainly not something that they're going to forget, especially if the relationship was good. And oftentimes, the best thing you can do is stay away, and you might be surprised at how much that impacts your ex. I know it doesn't work in every situation. And a lot of times people will say, well, some of the comments in your videos are pretty negative, Coach Lee, and how it hasn't worked yet. That's partly because in many ways, my channel and the community here kind of serve as an emergency room. People are pretty devastated when they get here. And a lot of times they do hear from their ex and they do get back together and they feel like they have no need for this channel, which, breaks my heart and everything. And when you get your ex back, I hope you stick around, because if you want your relationship to be more powerful in the future, I can help you with that as well in these videos, especially the ones I do on marriage and relationships in general. But usually when they get their ex back, they're too busy being with their ex, and they don't really think about getting on my channel again because there's no point. But I have lots of success stories, and it's pretty impressive the number that I get to see in a month's time. And there are lots of people in the comments who did get their ex back, and they will share that. And that's one of the things that I ask you. When and if you get your ex back, please come leave a positive comment on this channel to encourage people, because it does work, and I know it works a lot, but I also know that most of the people on this channel are in the breakup and they're hurting, and so that's what they're going to comment about. The people who already have their ex back are not going to be watching my videos as much, and so they're less likely to comment. So think about that as you go through the comments. Remember to get more information on my emergency breakup kit. It's a powerful guide to help you get your ex back. The link is in the description below, or you can go to myexbackcoach.com/EBK. And you can choose also to be part of the community where you can actually have a dialogue with me and my coaches about your situation. This has been Coach Lee, and no, your ex is not going to forget you. Thank you for watching.